So, hello everybody. Welcome. We are here in the talk show about negotiation with the brainy mind, and we are here with Jason and with Roar, and it's an honor to be here with you and understand a little bit more about who you are, about what united, what brought you together to design this theme, negotiation with the brainy mind. What is it? So we can understand how we can join this knowledge and have this knowledge incorporated for our daily lives. So let's start with that. And first, I would again welcome you and thank for your presence with us. And for I know you already, but for everybody to get to know you, if you could start presenting yourself so we know who you are, what you come from, and what connected you. So first, present yourselves, and the word is with you.
So, Roy, why don't you begin? Age before beauty.
Thank you, Jason. My name is Roar. I'm a facilitator, I call myself, or I also call myself a reformed lawyer. That means I have working with law for the last 20 years as a lawyer for many of them, working then maybe mostly with labor law. And during that time, I felt the need to get to know a lot more about negotiations. And that brought me to the States to participate at several classes at Harvard and also at the Strauss Institute at Pepperdine. So I have my negotiation and my mediation education from the States. I saw the need of knowing a lot more about negotiations theory and the method, and gave me the framework that I helped a lot in my work as a lawyer. And the more I've been working with it, the more I see the need to understand more about the psychology, about the human behavior and human skills. And that brought me in connection with my good friend and colleague, Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason Liem. I'm originally from Canada. I call home Norway now. My background is actually within the clinical and cognitive sciences. So I worked in a clinical setting more than 20 years ago. And so my specific training was with trauma and anxiety and such like that. Working as a counselor, as someone within the clinical domain of clinical psychology, helping people to make sense of their story, to make sense of what happened to them. And a lot of those techniques, when I moved to Norway, I sort of shifted gears and I started working as a consultant or as a facilitator / sparring partner or coach. And basically what I do now for the last 20 years, I run a small company called Mind Talk. And within Mind Talk, I work with corporations, both individuals and groups, helping them with sort of leadership and communication. But I kind of taken a sort of an alternative view of teaching. It's not so much from a management perspective as it is from a brain science and cognitive psychology perspective. So when people are trying to understand how to manage others, one of the major things I help people do is, first of all, to manage themselves, to understand, to be more present with their thoughts and their thinking, with their emotions, to be sort of present so they're able to deal with difficult situations, where they're creating a sense of resilience. And so my background is very different from Roar's, but within those differences, there is a similarity that kind of brought us together. And it's just that, my passion is teaching people about the brain and how to use it pragmatically, to understand sort of the networking and to use that to lead themselves, to lead others, and to also manage difficult situations. And so that's what I've been doing for about 20 years.
Great, awesome to know you, and very interesting to have a lawyer connected with a psychologist to talk about negotiation with the brainy mind. So if you can explore a little bit more, how do you see the complementations of your profiles? How do you complement each other to have come up with this theme, negotiation with the brainy mind?
First, I'm thinking it's about the same passion as Jason just said. the passion of I find teaching and explaining and helping others to explore this world. And I see the need of a better awareness and a better skills in the topic human behavior. So when I've been working as a lawyer and often with high emotions with often the other party, it could be my own client or the negotiation settings in general, it allowed me to examine the psychology behind human behavior, and that created a curiosity. And that curiosity led me to say, I know the rational world where we are trained in as lawyers, and we connect what we are using to the law, to regulations, to the contract terms, etc. But it's also about people. It's always about people in the work we're doing. So I created a curiosity in that area. And then Jason and I met randomly, and that was kind of a connection there, that we started presenting my material, my thinking, what I had and what I was missing in what I was doing. And suddenly that was some doors that opened for Jason as well.
And I think, you know, we met about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and as Roar was saying, it was just by chance that we stumbled upon each other, and it was just a complete coincidence. But when someone introduced us, we just started talking about what each of us did and does. And I think the major thing is it's about communication. But you know, communication, if you open up, there's a whole Pandora's box. I mean, there's a lot there. And part of it is the ability to build relationships, to build and maintain relationships, to build trust, to build transparency, you know, across the board, regardless of with friends, families, colleagues, clients. But Roar came from sort of the legal, contractual kind of labor area. And that involves so much, and his trainings from around the world. And I saw that as very complementary with what I did, even though I come from a completely different perspective. We kind of honed in on the same sort of target area. You know, when you strip back what it is when we call negotiation, because negotiations it sounds like a very formal corporate kind of word, but when you open it up and you look at sort of the elements that make up what negotiation is, well, it's about human beings connecting across the table or across in an arena, and they may come from completely different viewpoints, but it's trying to find some sort of compromise or agreement, because the reason these group of people or individuals are sitting in a room is the ability to find some sort of solution together. Otherwise, there would be no need for them. And all those elements from clinical psychology and brain science, from law and that whole area of negotiations and rhetoric, those complement each other, because what does it come down to is, well, it comes back down to building and maintaining human relationships, the ability to build trust and transparency across the table, even if we come from different genders, different cultures, different religions, regardless of that aspect. But it's the ability to hone those skills, to sharpen those skills, and to use them. And we thought that, wow, I mean, bringing sort of that lawyer rhetoric and negotiation aspect, which is being very formalized, and it's a very skill-based things, to what I do, which is deal with the thinking and the emotions of the inner game in order to have a better outer game when you're communicating with people on the other tables. I mean, there was so much there. And again, it's from two different perspectives, but when you actually examine it, they layer and they, as you said, Camille, they complement each other.
I just add something to what Jason just said. From my world, the rational world, put it that part, and I saw the need of understanding how to interact and work with negative emotions, and how the negative emotions and the dynamics related into and how the impact that had to decision making and behavior. So often it clouds the decision making because you are not aware that the emotions and the negative emotions are working on your ability to decide where to go, how to behave. And then we are back to the basic human skills of communication. So this is the path that we are working on, and then we in this concept would like to combine them, and we see the awareness around the world in the negotiation and mediation area is increasing in this area. We see that also lawyers with their traditional background is more curious and have been, I can see that this is a skill they need to have.
That's great, because when I hear you saying, two things that came very, very strong in my mind when I heard you was the importance of knowing how to deal with me before dealing with others. So how it is important to not make my emotions cloud my reason. And it's very interesting that coming from the law, you, Roar, have this very rational mindset as a lawyer, and I'm a lawyer, so I know that we have this very rational mindset. We need reason to organize everything we do. But at the same time, as you said, it's always about people. It's always about people. And people are not only reason, they are emotions, they are sentiments, and how important it is to understand. And then life brings you together with Jason, who simply knows all about it. So about human behavior, about the science of psychology, as you mentioned, cognitive science, and the way we function with our emotions, with our brain, and also, as you said, in a pragmatic way. So understanding why do we do those things and how can we organize ourselves in a more effective way, let's say. And what I was thinking I would like to ask you about is, if you could put for us what in one sentence, let's say, in one sentence, what it is to negotiate with the brainy mind. So what it is, this negotiation, brain, have the brainy mind, science. So if you could put for us in one sentence, what it is, what are we talking about? So we can dive in a little bit more on that.
Sure. For me, from my perspective, the negotiation with brain and mind is just that. It's about building working relationships. And in doing so, we build possibilities, how we can bridge things. And then, once you go from the relationships to the possibilities, then what you're building is eventual solutions or possible solutions to whatever dilemma or challenge we're trying to solve us together. By understanding the brain, that just gives us even more aspects, because we become sort of present with our own thinking and becoming much more present with what someone else is saying and listening for their perspective. So that was actually 3 sentences.
Perfectly put. Thank you. And in your view, Roar?
In my view, it's not by surprise some of the, of course, similarities what Jason said. It's the awareness of the relationship part that I could take care of, also for a future deal. And by that, I mean that it's often about, it's normal, and we have to accept it's normal that the emotions are increasing in a negotiation. But it's the way we can deal with it, the way we can help by giving you tools, awareness and tools and techniques to de-escalate the negative emotions, so people can return to their normal functional level, so they more rationally can be there and take the necessary balancing between the elements that's on the table, but also to secure the relationship for future more deals.
That's perfect. I make some notes here. Very, very, very nice. And if we think about what it is, as you said, to negotiate with a brainy mind, what have motivated you to talk about that and to design a course about that? And mainly, what have motivated you to talk about those abilities and to design something together?
For me, it's,
from my perspective. Oh yeah, sorry, Roar. Go ahead.
Okay. For me, it's to raise the awareness that I have had myself, and to see that this is so helpful. So this is both in a way of the concept of me, myself, how I can bring more certainty in my own, how I could be aware of my own communication skills by being more open in my dialogue with the people on the other side of the table, the use of empathy to create the trust, and by that connecting in a much better way with the other party. And by that way, I'm also able to, I feel it, my experiences to make better deals, but also keep the relationship for the future deals. Jason.
I think from my perspective, when I went into clinical psychology, way back, 25, almost, 26, 27 years ago, the reason I went into it was maybe for what might be considered quite idealistic, but it was to help other people to make sense of what had happened to them and to empower them to rewrite their own story. Back in the day, I wish I could have rewound what happened and replayed so that trauma never happened to someone, but well, I can't do that, neither can they. So mine was again, as I say, it might seem idealistic, but it was truly to help people to understand what had happened to them, to make sense, to move from a sort of a victim mentality to a victor mentality where they can take control. And so over the years, when I moved into the Mind Talk and I eventually met Roar and we built up this great concept, I think some of those grounding tenets of the reasons why I passionately went into this is still there. Of course, it's to help people to be more present. One thing with negotiate brain and mind, one of the things about the whole concept we have is for people to be present with their thinking, to be present with themselves. And what do we mean by that is to be present with their thoughts and their emotions and behaviors. Because if they're in tune with themselves, it becomes so much easier for them to be in tune with the other person. If that's what we're talking about, is building relationships and finding some sort of possibility or solution to move forward together, even though we may not like each other, but the point is to try to find that. And so my passion for doing this has always come from that fact to, help people to understand themselves so they're able to help other people, whether we call it negotiations or leadership or influence or what have you, or therapy. I think those are my grounding reasons. And I kind of connected because, when Roar talks about empathy, he's the kind of guy who bleeds a lot of empathy. He's very understanding, and that kind of resonated with me because I share a lot of those values. Maybe it's a Canadian Norwegian thing because our countries share a lot of values too. But it's that connection, and that connection happened on a lot of levels, and it allowed us to sort of complement, and we could talk about concepts and work through them and see how they fit. And I think both of us, at the end of the day, it is about helping individuals or teams or organizations to do a better job at what they're doing. And we truly feel that we passionately feel that we can deliver something to help people to be more in tune with themselves and how they communicate, and just that, build bridges.
May I add
Thanks,
something? May I add something to Camille? For me, it's a lot about the what I've heard it in the word of humanity, using human skills, bring humanity into the connection between people. It's in sales, it could be in leadership management work, it could be around the negotiation table. But we have a traditional, often way of thinking about it, and we could see that in today's world, in the way we can see on the world stage, what people are many times positioning themselves, polarizing themselves. And I'm not sure if that brings the best out of people and the best ideas and solutions and deals on the table. So bringing humanity into this and still maximizing my ideal, gaining as much as I can, but that doesn't mean that I cannot help also my party on the other side as Jason to gain even more. than maybe he thought when he started. That's part of the combining of these two words.
That's awesome to hear, because when you talk about to be present, how many times in our day we think we are in many places at the same time? We think we can do many things at the same time, but our brain is not in many places at the same time. It's only in one place. So to be actually present there is to also legitimate that the other person is also there, and to create this connection. And since it's always about people, right? Even if it's between companies, there is a person and a person, right? There's no algorithms talking. we have people, and that's always about people. So it's really nice to see how we can, in a pragmatic way, as Jason said, put our humanity in everything we do. And as you said, Roar, with a framework. So to have this framework, to have this organization that we can prepare and organize ourselves. And then I was thinking how to negotiate with the brainy mind. So I understand what it is to negotiate with the brainy mind. Okay, but how can I do that? How can I, and as you said, negotiation would be just much more than what we think about negotiation. So any human interaction where we have to make a decision, joint decision, or find a joint solution or create a joint solution, we are negotiating. So for any moment in our lives that we can use that. But my question would be then, how would you say it is to negotiate with a brainy mind? Of course, we don't have time for everything you have to share, and I know you have to share a lot with us, but in short sentences and in your view, in your experience, how would be to negotiate with a brainy mind? If you can even think about an example in your life where you negotiated with your brainy mind, and can tell us how was the experience of being there in your life, negotiating with a brainy mind.
May I start by my old experience?
Yeah, start, please, Rob.
My old experience that opened my Pandora's box into this is that we are trained in the strength of argumentation. And I can just come in and influence you with my brilliant arguments and with my rational world of law and regulations and contracts behind me. And that created a lot of challenges when I when I present that to you. So for me and work with Jason to develop this is one, and the key element in everything we do is preparation. And find an efficient way of preparing and what to be prepared for. Okay, let us help you by giving you a framework for that. And part of that is also what we call the priming, to set you in a state that you are maybe unconsciously aware of what is happening. And that could maybe be being a place where we facilitate the room correctly, so it's more influencing the way of how we can communicate. It could be the way that I have pictures in my room of people that are known for bringing humanity to people and how they negotiate. We have Nelson Mandela, we have Gandhi, we have several people that have brought that into us, and that maybe could start an unconscious awareness of people asking me the questions, why do you have this on your wall? Why do you have that? That was just a couple of elements that we could start with. So maybe you, Jason, can lead us further on.
Yeah, sure. I mean, for me, negotiation with the brain and mind is you know, from my perspective, is understanding about the brain. You know, most of us, everyone uses their brain, at least I hope so, to some extent, but most of us don't understand what the brain is. It's a very sort of kind of, we see it as something separate. You know, it is us, but we're separated from the rest of our body. But for me, you know, helping people sort of negotiate with the brain and mind, if we look at a different perspective. So if you take a string and you draw that string through my career from, you know, as a coach, as a sparring partner in corporate settings, all the way back to when I worked in a clinical setting, what negotiation was for me was helping to influence someone. You know, if it was someone to take a more healthier mindset about who they are, how they were to move into life, by sometimes teaching people about mindsets, and that mindsets are connected to different actual physical circuits in your brain, that and these circuits fire off different structures which have different functions, which release different chemicals such as hormones and neurotransmitters or brain chemicals. So when you teach someone about the brain, saying when they are reactive, whether it's from trauma or anxiety or stress at work or an argument or a difficult conversation they've had, whatever triggers them, when you teach people about, well, this is what's going on in your brain, what happens? It allows a person to sort of dissociate or disconnect and thinking, oh, that's just my brain reacting that way. It's not so much me, but it's my survival primal sort of software going off. So when one of the major tenets that Roar and I teach is to be present, whether it's a negotiation with the brain and mind or along that string of my whole career, it's making people present. And when you teach them about the brain of what's going on, if I'm going reactive, I'm feeling anxiety or anger or frustration, or I see that on the other side of the table, by having some of that grounding in neuroscience and cognitive sciences, then I can say, oh, that's what's going on. That means between what we say like a stimulus and response. So if there's a pop, I hop. But as human beings, we can actually separate those two spaces of stimulus and response and drop in observation and reflection. I can observe my emotions. I can observe my thoughts. That's okay, but I can reflect on it. So if I'm angry, I don't have to lash out. I can take a more measured response, more diplomatic tone in order to get somewhere. Because if I just flash with the frustration or anger, I'm going to shut it down. And that doesn't help to building possibilities or solutions or building relationships. So for me, negotiation brain and mind is just that. It's understanding that this is my brain doing what it's doing. And that's what we teach in the course, are all these different aspects. But once we have that, we empower ourselves thinking, you know what, that's just my brain doing its thing. I can control my brain. I don't have to allow my brain to control me. So that's from my perspective.
And
thanks, Camille.
when we have listened to Jason now, he have been talking about himself, his own behavior, his own certainty or uncertainty into this, his own thinking and what we have called the overthinking. Because I'm not sure how to meet Jason today. So I start, thinking about that. And I create often a lot of uncertainty in my mind. And this is nothing to do with Jason. This is all have to do with myself. And that's why we have created what we have called the 70-30 principle. Because what we see, it's the connection with Jason, but that we think that's happening immediately. But a lot of my preparation and my thinking and my certainty or uncertainty is about myself. So what we would like and what we do in this course is to teach you and raise the awareness about what we call the me phase. The phase that I have to ground myself. And I do that partly with my preparation, as I said, but also into reflecting on my own certainty and my own thinking. And that creates me into being present. And when I'm present and listening to Jason, I'm active listening. And that's a very difficult skill. And what we often do, we think that's the easy part, just sitting here, but it's definitely not. And bring that into what Jason now just called the reactive brain, because he says something that triggers me. And I need to work with myself to be aware not to be triggered by those lines that he come up with, his proposals, his offers, whatever it is. Or maybe it's about a working part that he need to talk about the challenges in my workplace behavior, and I feel that this is not true. So I'm very guarding when he's talking. So I need to ground myself in that part. So that's also an element working about myself before I'm meeting you on the other side of the table.
I think what's very important is, it's what Roar is saying is, as we said, one of the major tenets that we're constantly encouraging, whether it's sort of a one-to-one coaching or if it's sort of in the workshop, is to be present. It is to be present with yourself, because in order to have active listening, because what's normal for the brain is that when I hear someone coming up with an opposing opinion, or something that goes against what I'm saying, the natural reaction, if I'm not present with my own thinking, is that I'm thinking about a rebuttal. I'm thinking about how I can counter what Roar is saying to me if he's negotiating with me on the table. So we kind of hammer home time and time again in each of the units that we teach, be present. Because if you're not present, then you're not truly listening. You're hearing the words, but you're not truly listening what they're saying. And so one of the kind of skills we talk about when we talk about active listening is a skill called echoing. Now, echoing, just to give something away here, basically that's like, Camille, if you're saying something to me, I'm actually repeating those words in my head. So I'm actually hearing those words twice. And what happens is the brain can only focus on one thing at a time. So instead of thinking about a rebuttal, I'm actually echoing the words you're saying in my mind. As I said, I hear it twice, and that is actually deep listening. And then with the other active listening skills we kind of teach, or what we call reflective listening skills, is how do we follow up on those echoing techniques?
Great. And yeah, because when I hear you, I feel that there are abilities to be developed to make my negotiations more efficient by understanding my functionalities. So if I understand how my brain functions, I can understand that sometimes I will have lots of emotions that will blur what I see. And if I react immediately, I will lose all my notes and all my preparation, everything that I prepared myself to be doing there. And it happens all the time that we get anxious, that we get nervous, that we get angry during our conversations, right? Even with clients or with the team I work with. So whenever we are relating with the team we work with the clients, with our partners, we have all the preparations we do. So let's say we learn from you the framework. So we learn there is a framework, there are techniques to organize our conversations, to organize our solution making, to organize our negotiations. So then we prepare very much and we organize, but we forget we are humans. We forget we have brain, we forget we have emotions. So when we get on the table to lead our team or to talk with our partners or to talk with our clients or to talk with the other side, the client of the counterparty, let's say, something triggers some part of my brain. And when I see I forget all my preparation and I start giving answers instead of being present, because then I don't echo anymore, as Jason said. So when I was hearing you, I was like, there are abilities to be developed that can make my relations more efficient, right? More efficient in a way that I can understand those abilities and those techniques, use them consciously, with conscious and with awareness, right? And then apply them into my work. So then I became curious on which are those techniques and those abilities that you will be able to show better, of course, in the course. So there is a way of learning all these things. And so it's like a twofold question I would like to ask. First, what are those techniques and abilities that you will be teaching us in the workshop? And then how do you see those abilities being used in your experience? So when you managed to use those abilities, so we can see how they work in real life, so we can understand a little bit better how they will help us in our daily leadership or communication or service when we are giving our services to our clients and so.
What I was thinking.
If I may begin.
Please,
go ahead,
Jason.
From a clinical setting, what was kind of curious about this course is not your traditional negotiation course where you do this. we bring a different world, and Aurora brings his experience. I mean, he's learned negotiation, but he brings experience from law, from working in Cyprus and Northern Ireland and Israel with Palestinians and such. So it's taking the theory and pragmatically working with all these different cultures. I'll let him speak to that. But from my point, well, I get really passionate about this because I know how important it is. But a lot of the techniques we were learned in the clinical psychology and the cognitive sciences, they don't pass down to business schools or marketing or sales or lawyers. And so the set of skills that we learn are quite unique in a sense, in that sort of counseling therapy kind of situation. But they are sort of universal skills that, like swimming. Once you know how to swim, you can swim wherever. But once you learn these specific skills that I bring to the table about the brain and such, about listening and building relationships. I mean, we've heard all these terms before in communications, but pragmatically, how does that show? And so another major tenet we do is that, yes, we teach a little theory and we ground it, but everything is 5 minutes outside of each unit. You've got pragmatic skills that you can use that complement the skills you've already learned from your education, your work experience, but you're seeing it from a different perspective. And sometimes taking a different perspective on something can add so much vibrancy and think, oh, that's why it works. Oh, that's another way of seeing it. Oh, that's another way of seeing it. So we don't try to replace anything. What we're doing is bringing a blended solution from different disciplines to create a very unique way of doing it. But at the end of the day, as interesting it is, they're pragmatic, practical skills that can be optimized and utilized in any setting, like literally 5 minutes after the one-to-one meeting with us or the workshop.
And
I'll let you. Yeah, go ahead, Roar.
and bring this into let's say the negotiation world. Often I used to start by saying in the introduction to the courses that what we will help you with, and a takeaway for you after this course, is that you have a better a self-control of yourself. So all your preparation could be used to the best during the negotiations you are in, or the negotiation could be transferred to that conversation that you're going to have, or the sales meeting that you're going to have. But it's the same framework we're talking about. So that certainty that's or the uncertainty that I have in myself, by getting a better control of that, by being told something, by being explained how it is, and that we give you as practical work that you will do as a training tool, so you experience it, because you need to experience it. You need to try it out and not be just told how it is. So this is an very important element for us in teaching, or what we call training, is that we are using what we call the tell, the explain, the describe, the practice part. So every unit is very practical, so you have to do it yourself. So as I bring this into the negotiation world, by creating a better self-control in myself to get the uncertainty away, we say that, hey, you bring this into being able to probe much better in the negotiations. But because if you're gonna, when I meet you, we're gonna explore more options that's out there that I haven't thought about, you haven't thought about. Maybe you could think about that together. I need probing techniques, so I will be interested, active listening to what you are saying, and also feel comfortable that even you are reacting to what I'm saying, I can be calm and not react back to you, but reflect and try to bring that peace into the table, to be there and accept that you also react the way you do, instead of am I just myself blowing up because of my uncertainty and leave the table.
Yeah,
so we are all about me, how I can control myself in being the best I could be together with you. And maybe we could come, negotiation is a bit, it's not saying that we're going to make a deal every time, but we're going to make the best possibilities to explore if we can make a deal together. So it's also fair to say no in at the negotiation table. It's fair to maximize your deal because you have clients that you are working for and they don't want you to just make a deal. They want you to make the best deal. But how do you do this? Yes, this is an efficient tool to reach that maximum deal for you.
That's amazing to hear, because then we can really see there are tools, that are abilities to be learned to make, as you said before, to build working relationships, to bridge and to build solutions together, even if the solution that both parties understand that the solution is not the deal, is something else. So they have what to compare to. They can compare the possibilities because they're not emotionally thinking. They are rationally thinking. But in order to be rationally thinking, they need to understand that they have emotions and that sometimes the emotions will come and they will need to be present, as you said, to, okay, there's this emotion coming. Where is this coming from? Can I become, and something that I was hearing is not just like the experiences you had. Jason mentioned here, Roar, you have experiences in Palestine, in Israel, in Cyprus. And Jason, you didn't talk about yourself, but you have experiences in the UN. So how those experiences can, of course, they made you who you are, and how can we also use a little bit of those experiences when we do the course with you, when we get to learn from you?
Sure. Well, yeah. Well, okay. I speak to. Well, I work with the United Nations. I worked with another group called Ergo Ego, and they're actually a troupe of sort of really great actors in Norway. And so, but when we talk to the UN, when we teach the UN, my aspect, what I bring to the table, we worked with what was called UNCTs, United Nations Country Team Leaders. You know, these are the people that have to run the different agencies. You know them as UNICEF and WHO, and the different UN organizations. And what we were teaching is how the different agencies can talk to each other within the UN. And at the same time, the head of these different agencies, they have to negotiate and communicate with warlords, faith leaders, gang leaders, politicians, you name it, across the world. And some places are, they can be quite hairy, quite scary, right? Depending on where you are. But regardless, at the end, it's the ability to build bridges, regardless of culture or ethnicity or religion or whatever political affiliation. It's the ability to do that. And it comes back down to, as we keep saying, it's about being present with yourself and actually listening to the other person. You may not like what's coming out of the other person's mouth, but the reason you're sitting there is you need to work with him or her or their organization to get somewhere. And so all these practical skills, and we hear it time and time again in different management, negotiation courses, communication, relationships and stuff, but it actually does come down to that. And so what we want to do is sometimes, we address the same things, but it's trying to apply that, because, the same skills that I taught with trauma or with corporate clients now or working with UN, it doesn't matter what the game is or what the business is or whatever the focus is. At the end of the day, I think you said, Camilla, it's about two human beings or a group of human beings sitting down, trying to communicate, build bridges, build some sort of relationships that's based on mutual respect, some level of trust, and definitely transparency in order to move forward. I think that is so important, and especially at the United Nations level, it's so important considering all the dynamics in play in 2020.
My experience is this, it's related to building the bridges that Jason talked about. I had a privilege and be working with an American conflict resolution organization named Peace Players International. And they are in different places in the world where people are living in divided communities. So they are in Cyprus, where you have Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. You have it in Israel, where you have the Jews and the Arabs. You find them in Northern Ireland with Protestants and Catholics. And they're also in South Africa and also in inner cities in several places in the States. And it's all about bridging divides. So you can see when you separate people, you build mistrust. And then to try to restore that mistrust, you need to start building pillars of trust to see how the others are. And that could be in the UN, where Jason are working with the country leaders. It could be the kids that I meet in these Peace Players international events, where they meet people from the other side. And they have been living, like in Cyprus. I've moved to Cyprus with my family some years ago, and we volunteered for this organization for a whole year. And we saw how people been living separately in the same country, in the same city, but separately for many, many, many years, for decades, and how that create that mistrust. And then you bring them together, and this organization are using basketball to bring people together. So they play together, and they could see this is a way that we didn't get to know each other. So maybe we in the future can be able to live together. And it's the same elements, it's the same safety that I need to bring to the table. It's the same trust I need to bring as I do in the negotiation table. It could be the same empathy that you need to show that a manager is using when you have a difficult conversation with a subordinate on the other side of the table. It's about the trust and the rapport I need to build, so that you would like to be with me, to play basketball with me, or to go on to that dialogue with that military leader that you find somewhere in the world. So it's the similarities that we find from this hardcore business world, or the word lords that Jason talked about, to the kids that have they've just been born and brought up in an area where their fathers or grandfathers or even older have separated their families. And that's a long time, and it's very rewarding to be part of.
Wow, and that's amazing, because when I hear your experiences in the United Nations and building peace in very divided countries, and the way you bring that to any one of us, any one of our daily lives, because I can be the way we feel divided from other people sometimes. Like, I want the best price, you want the lower price, so there's division among us. We won't bridge that. And or I have a client that is in conflict with someone else. I can never bridge this conflict. I mean, they are separated already. So many times we don't see how we can build those bridges. We don't, and we are emotional. Our clients are emotional. Our the people we lead or the people we work with. So we human beings at a point, we don't, no, that's not for me. I don't believe I can bridge those difficult things I'm dealing with. And then I hear you and I see, yeah, but this guy is helping people in the United Nations bridging things. And this other guy is helping people in Palestine, Israel, Northern Ireland, in Cyprus, helping whole countries bridging those divisions. So why not me, a human being in my daily life? Of course, they will be able to help me bridge my own challenges in my own life. And not because we believe in a better world, of course we do, but because there are techniques, there are ways of doing this, there are abilities to be developed. And we don't learn that in the university, we don't learn that anywhere else. So if I could, we are heading to the end of this talk show. If I could give you back the word for your final remarks, and with our main feeling of gratitude for everything you have shared so far.
Yeah. May I just bring on what we believe, Camille, because we believe that the principle of negotiations, the rationalities in the world that we bring with us, it's better if we could combine them with the neuroscience area where Jason is the expert in. And those two words, they are applicable to improving the leadership performance, to improving the negotiation performance, to improve maybe your sales performance through what we call the art of the 730 principle, and what we have created, what in the theme, the negotiation with the brain in mind. So we believe in that world as well, Camille.
I think, what we've tried to do is, there's a lot of people out there that teach negotiations and they're really good. What we want to do is create sort of a unicorn, a very unique product where we've taken, the knowledge and discipline of building relationships and communications and to bring it into one place. It becomes one source, where it's it is literally the cutting edge of science, of communication, of psychology, of relationships, both at the cognitive, clinical, and the leadership level. So even though we've wrapped it up in the word negotiation, we wanted to create a very unique course that maybe you don't negotiate all the time, but as Roar keeps saying, we negotiate in almost every aspect. I mean, we've built this course for sort of leaders and managers, for people that are in the sales and marketing, whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or what have you, or a consultant. At the end of the day, what we've wanted to create a very special course where in one place you can get all this information. You can see how the different disciplines that we've spoken and that we bring to the table are layered and how it's all connected, and create a very fascinating and passionate way of teaching. We'd love to do this live, but we do this online, and it's very passionate. But at the end of the day, our goal is to make people present and to have the skills and the understanding that they can use this from day one, that they're not complicated. We've simplified, without making them simplistic, the skills so they can use it as a manager, as a leader, as a negotiator, or whatever their profession is. And that's what we wanted to create, a very unique, a unicorn type of course, and unicorns do exist in this case.
When our imagination comes, everything is possible. That's it. And what strikes me more than anything else is the passion with which you bring this knowledge to us. So both of you, the passion that connected, that complemented your profiles, that connected you both, and with this purpose in mind, with this purpose, joint purpose of helping people be more present and help people prepare for everything they face in their challenges with other people, and know that they have the tools and they can develop abilities by understanding their own possible techniques for communication and negotiation, understanding their brain. So as you mentioned, the neuroscience here comes. So we understand ourselves, like you mentioned before, and I love this, to deal with me before dealing with others. So first I need, and that's why the 70-30, right? 71st is me. So I need to understand my own self. How are my triggers working on me? How do I need to prepare? How can I connect to the other? And when I connect, how can we build bridges together? So this line of reasoning makes all sense. And I would like to thank you a lot. And we are organizing, so Casa Norma is organizing with Waegger Institute and Mind Talk and Ser Mais this negotiation with the Brain in Mind workshop. So it's the second edition we are doing, and we're very, very honored to being able to bring you to Brazil, even if it's virtually. You are with us, and that's amazing. Thank you a lot. We'll be seeing each other soon. Our workshop begins soon, and the subscriptions are there. People, if you have any questions, you can just address to Casa Norma. We'll be more than happy to answer you. And also Roar and Jason are very available for anything. Maybe if people have any questions before signing up, we can be there answering. So thank you a lot, Jason and Roar, for being here with us today. And yeah, we'll see each other again very soon in this amazing project. Let's make this unicorn fly. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate your time, guys, and appreciate anyone who's listening and such. If you have any questions, just shoot them our way.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. See you.